Hey gang, today we're going to make an installment in a simple theory for a guitar series that we're doing. It's the simplest of simple music theory. It's the notes on the guitar. Now I know. A lot of people, what I can say is that even advanced guitarists, some people who became experts didn't know the notes on the guitar. But please do yourself a favor and learn the notes on the guitar. If you're a beginner, this lesson is for you. If you're an advanced guitarist or intermediate guitarist who doesn't know all the notes on the guitar, this is for you as well. I want to give you a couple of ideas. What's the minimum amount that you really need to memorize? And then a couple of exercises, one vertical, one horizontal, and one I'm going to call find the notes. We'll find the C's or find the E's. And that's going to set us up for understanding the caged system when we come to it as well. So I think there's a double whammy, and it's worth your time to do this. Definitely, if you don't know the notes, it's time to learn them, okay? It's time to buckle down, spend a week of doing these exercises, get them down. You'll be super glad you did. All right, so that's what we're going to do today. We'll see in just a second. We're going to go close up. All right, gang, well, let's get to it. Here's how I want to do this. I want to first tell you the minimum that you need to memorize, and I'll tell you the things that you need to memorize. Then we are going to go over 3 exercises, the vertical exercise, the horizontal exercise, and the find the notes exercise, okay? And the find the notes exercise is really going to set us up for the cage system. Okay. So let's first of all talk about the minimum things that you need to memorize. There's 2 things. You need to memorize the names of the open strings in standard tuning, okay? And you need to know the names of the notes. Now, we're going to start with the names of the notes, and that's going to be real super basic. There's basically 7 notes that are named after alphabet numbers, right? There's A, there's B, there's C, there's D, there's E, there's F, there's G, and then it repeats. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay? Now, there's more to it than that, and we'll get to it in just a second, but that's enough to let us know the open strings. Okay? So we're going to have to memorize the names of the open strings. The 6th string, the thickest string, the one at the bottom that I'm going to play right now, open, is E. Okay? That's an E. That's the E string. Then we've got the A string. Then we've got the D string. Then we've got the G string. Then we've got the B string. Then we've got the E string as well. So the thinnest string is the same note pitch. I'm sorry, not exactly the same note pitch, but has the same note name as the thickest string. That's also an E. It happens to be 2 octaves up. Okay, so E, A, E, A, D, G, B, and E. All right, so that's that. Now let's get back to the note names. So I mentioned that there was A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What I neglected to mention are there are spaces in between a number of those notes. And it's important for us to at least memorize which ones have a whole step and which ones have a half step. Now on the guitar, a whole step is going to be 2 frets. Okay, so if I want to go from this fret a whole step up, it would be 2 frets up, right? So from this, a whole step is this, 2 frets. A half step is 1 fret. All right, now that we've got that, let's start with an A. Now we know the 5th string is an open A, right? That's an A. And let's go to a B. A B is 2 frets away. That means it's a whole step from A. All right, so an A to B is a whole step. A B to C is a half step. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. Okay, here we go. E to F is a half step. And F to G is a whole step. And finally, G to A is a whole step. So what we can learn from this is that there are gaps between the notes except between B and C and E and F. Okay? Now, if we go down, that's going to be a flat. If we go up from a particular note, that's going to be a sharp. So, for example, here was a C. We just mentioned that. Oops, I'm sorry. Here is a C. A half step up would be C sharp. And a half step down would be, whoops, not C flat. It's B. That was a trick. But with most of them, they have both a flat and a sharp. So if we go to D, if we go one half step up, that's a D sharp. And if we go one half step down, that's a D flat. Okay, so those are the things that you need to memorize. The names of the open string, E, A, D, G, B, and E. And the A to B is a whole step, B to C is a half step, C to D is a whole step, D to E is a whole step, E to F is a half step, F to G is a whole step, G to A is a whole step. Okay, so there's only a half step gap between C and B, or B and C, and E and F. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, great. I want to show you the 3 exercises that you can do. The first is probably not very fun, but it's a random, we're going to pick one string, and we're going to find the notes on the string. We're going to gradually build up our understanding of this. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to go from the 0th fret, the open, and we're going to note that the first thing we want to note is at the 12th fret is a whole octave up. So this is the same note, but just it's going to sound the same, but it's a whole octave up. You hear that? Well, that was an interesting note. Okay, so 12 frets up is exactly an octave. Okay, so you get the same name of the note. So if this is an E, this must be an E. Okay, now we're just going to fill in the gaps from each of those, but the exercise is we pick a random part on the string, and then we name the note, we say it out loud. Really important to do this. We say it out loud, and eventually, after a while, you'll start to figure things out. Now, let me show you how this works. Pick a note that you already know. So probably, we know definitely that open string is E, and we know this is E. So we just use what we already know, and we go either a whole step up or a whole step down, and we figure some things out. Let's start here and go down. Okay, so we pick this note right here. A whole step from E must be D, right? Because D and E, that's a whole step. Likewise, a whole step from D down must be C. But now C and B are only a half step, so this must be B, and A, and G, and F, and a half step to E. Okay, now if you may be more comfortable going up instead of down, so you go E to a half step to F. Remember, you memorized that there's a half step between E and F. Then to G is a whole step. A is a whole step. Just do this a couple of times when you're practicing, and you should not be going as fast as I am. Take your time with this, okay? Take your time. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to start to memorize things, and you won't even know it. You'll know, if you do this for maybe a couple of times a day, you'll start to do it on a single string and you'll get it. So you'll start to know, oh, this is an A, so a whole step up must be B, right? And if you start to do this and get the facility, do it day after day, you'll start to just know the notes on the fretboard. Okay? So that's one of the things that you can do. Pick one string randomly. I would suggest start from the bottom, start from the thickest string, and work your way to the thinnest string, and just pick a note randomly. So for example, you should be able to eventually just pick a note like this. B flat. Okay? E flat. C. F sharp. Okay, notice that I'm not making a distinction between sharps and flats. G. B. etc. Okay, so that's the exercise. Do that maybe a couple times a day for a week, and believe it or not, if you do it for 5 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes a day for a week, you'll know most of the string notes, or at least you'll know a couple of strings. Maybe do it a second week and know the rest of them. Okay, that's going to help you a lot. So that's one exercise. If that one becomes too boring, and it is a boring exercise, no question about it, what you can do is you can take a scale pattern that you know and force yourself to name all the notes. I would suggest starting with A, say A minor pentatonic, the scale that most people know, right? So it's this blues box, right? The blues box at the 5th fret. Everybody knows that one, or a lot of people know that one. Okay, if you do know it, you can do the following exercise. Just name the notes as you're playing them. A, C, D. Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to do this. So A, C. Now going to the 5th string, D, E. Going to the 4th string, G, A. Going to the 3rd string, C, D. Going to the 2nd string, E, G. Going to the 1st string, A, C. Now again, you should take your time and use any anchors that you already know. That's going to be helpful, right? So if you have by now memorized that this is a G, you can say, well, a whole step up from G, because you memorized the scale, is an A. Okay, believe it or not, it seems like there's a lot of memorization, and there probably is, but once you get your fingers doing it and you repeat it with your voice, it happens very quickly. So again, I want to emphasize it's really important to say the notes out loud as you're playing them. So those are the two exercises. The second one is really helpful if you don't always play the same scale. So it's one thing to play the A minor pentatonic and nail that, but what happens if you move down to, say, here and play that same pattern? So it would be F sharp, A, B, D. Oops, I'm sorry, not D. Sorry, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A. All right? You don't have to play them like I did. You can play them in the normal way. But again, really important to say it out loud. Go very, very slowly. Don't worry about a metronome. That's not important at all, okay? For those of you who are metronome freaks, don't need to use a metronome on this. In fact, it's preferred you don't. Go as slowly as you need to, naming those notes. All right, here's the third one, and this one is really going to set us up for cage. Those two, by the way, will get you there. No problem. They're not exciting at all. They're kind of boring, but the good thing is they don't take that long to do, and within a week or two, you won't have to ever do them again, okay? And you'll know all the notes on the guitar. Okay, the third one is one that's going to help develop your ears, and it's great for cage, so it's going to set you up for cage. So it's an excellent exercise to do, even if you're doing it not trying to know the notes. I call it find the notes, and I'm going to demonstrate it in C. The principles are I'm going to find all the C's. The idea is I'm going to find all the C's on the guitar. I won't necessarily go all the way up to here, but I'll go definitely up to here, okay? So I'm going to do that. I'll demonstrate how I can do that. I'll show you what's going on. So this is a C, 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 and then it repeats. This is a C, 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 C. All right, so how did I do that? Well, I did it because I know some things that I've done for a long time. But here's how you can feel your way around. I'm going to give you a couple of simple rules, but I want you to learn it by ear, not to look at a page. I could certainly give you a tab or a fretboard and say, hey, here are all the C's. But that's not going to help you because you're going to be looking at the tab instead of using your ears and your fingers to do it. So I want you to figure it out yourself. All right, so the principles are this. I start from a note, whatever that is, right? In this case, it's a C. and I'm going to look for a note that's 2 strings up or 3 strings up. Okay, so it has to be either 2 or 3 strings this way or this way on the fretboard. Okay, and 2 or 3 frets up as well. Okay, and we're just going to play it until we get it. So I'll show you what I mean on this one. Okay, so for this one, C, can I go 2 strings up? Well, I can't go to the 0th string. It doesn't exist on the guitar, or the negative 1st string. It doesn't exist on the guitar. So I can't go higher on this and play in this area. By the way, yes, of course I can go to this C, but it's well beyond my reach, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get them in order. So I must go to a lower octave. Now, the rule I just gave you was I'm going to go down 2 strings, 2 frets, or 3 frets, and test those, and then I'm going to go down 3 strings and 2 or 3 frets until I find the right one. So here it is. Let me go down 2 strings. 2 strings, 2 frets would be this. That doesn't sound the same to me. Nope, not the same. How about this? Definitely not. Okay, so now I have to go 3 strings down. Let's try this. That's 3 frets. Let's go to 2 frets. Ah, that sounds right. Do you hear that? Those notes sound the same, just an octave apart. Okay, so I'm hitting this one. I'm hitting this one. All right. You hear that? So if you don't quite hear it, my guess is when you play it and you play around, eventually you'll start to hear it, and that's going to help your ears a lot. Okay, so now we're going to take this one and go do the same thing. We can't go down 2 strings because that would put us on the 7th string. I assure you this is only a 6-string guitar. So we can't go down lower. We have to go up. Let's go up 2 strings and try 2. Actually, that sounds pretty good. Let's try 3 just to make sure. Yeah, definitely not. So yeah, so this must be a C, right? So now we're going to keep going up, and we're going to use our principles. Now in this case, we can go up 2 strings. That puts us on the 1st string from the 3rd, right? 2 frets? Nope, 3 frets. Hey, that sounds good. And now let's do this one and go down go down 2 strings, 2 frets. Nope. 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 Yeah. So this one's kind of interesting. It's got one to the top and it's got one to the bottom. But guess what? We kind of knew that. Anytime we have one on the 6th string, it's going to on the 1st string, it's going to double itself on the 6th string because guess what? These are both tuned to an E. Yeah? Kind of cool, right? So we know once we got that, we can just go to the 6th string, nail it. All right, so now we've got this. All right, so now we can either pick either one of them. I'm going to pick the one on the bottom. We can't go down because I don't have an 8-string guitar, let alone 7-string. So I'm going to go up 2 and 2 frets up. Sounds good to me, right? Okay, so now we're going to take this one and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go up 2 strings and over 2 frets. No, how about 3? Yep, that works. Go down 2 strings just to test and do 2 frets. Nope. And how about 3 frets? Nope. Neither of those work. Oh yeah, it's this one down here. We already knew that, right? Okay, so this one only goes to there. Now what's going to eventually happen in your brain is you're going to figure out these octave patterns. But at least right now, just let your ear, just figure it out with your ears and figure it out with your fingers, and then you'll start to see these patterns on the guitar. Okay? So for example, you'll be able to quickly see C, 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 etc. Okay? And you'll be able to do that for any of them. Let's take a different note. Let's take E. Okay? So E we know is this low and the high. So in this case, it's going to be the same. I'm going to pick the low one, Go up 2 frets and over. Let's try that. Got it. All right. And I'm going to keep doing what I know, and let's go to the next one. Etc. So I found all the E's. All right, now what is this exercise? This is a hard exercise to do. It does take some time, but what does it do for you? It develops your ears. It lets you figure out the octave patterns. You're not learning it from a book. You're learning it from your own experimentation. That's going to stick so much better than any book will show you. And it's also going to, in a further installment when we do this, when we start doing caged chords, you're going to start to note, hey, there are chords that revolve around every sort of set of 2 octaves, or of 2-note octaves. So for this one to here, we're going to have this chord. That's a C chord. From this one to here, we're going to have a C chord. From this one to this one, we're going to have a C chord. This is a hard one to finger. From this one to here, we're going to have a C chord associated with that. Here's a really hard one to finger. This one to here, we're going to have a C chord associated with it. And so forth. All right? So eventually you're going to start to see the chords. And once you start to see the chords, you're going to be able to put notes around the chords. And now you're cooking with gas because you're starting to see the fretboard in a whole new way based on anchors to notes and based on anchors to chords. That's what it's going to be. All right, so there you go. You've got your 3 exercises. You've got your vertical, you've got your horizontal, you've got your vertical, and you've got your find the notes, okay? So those are the 3 ones. The horizontal, just remember, and the vertical, remember to name the notes out loud. Say them out loud when you do it. Please take your time and only do it for a short period of time because this is boring stuff. You'll quit it quickly. If you do it for a half hour, you'll say, I got it good enough, and then skip it, and you won't really know it. The key is to do it every day for a while so that it really solidifies in your brain and you won't forget it, okay? And that last one's tough, but it's really going to help your ears, and it's going to let you start figuring out the patterns that we're later going to use in caged. All right. And then the other 2 things are you need to memorize the notes, which I will give you a little handy dandy thing down there. I'll put something in there, I don't know, a tab or fretboard. I'm not sure which. One of those in terms of half step, whole step. And then, the notes on the open strings. Okay, gang. Well, there you go. Simple music theory. The notes on the guitar, really simple. Gave you a few, I think, strong exercises that are going to get you on your way right away to doing this. And I wish you luck, and we'll see you on down the road in the next simple music theory for guitar installation. See ya.